If the man you trusted most was caught cradling your best friend's newborn, would you run or demand the truth, knowing it could destroy you? I was 8 months pregnant, and the August heat was unbearable. My feet were swollen, my back ached, and even breathing felt like a chore. That morning, I got up early, hoping to make it to my prenatal checkup before the hospital got too crowded. My husband, Daniel, had told me he was going out of town for a few days on business. His voice over the phone the night before had sounded tired but affectionate. "Take care of yourself, okay? I'll call when I can," he said. I missed him already, but I told myself to be understanding. Work was work, and I had no right to make him feel guilty for providing for our family. Still, a part of me wished he was here, rubbing my aching feet, making me tea, telling me it would all be okay. I dressed in a loose maternity dress, my belly stretching the fabric, and called for a ride. The hospital was only 15 minutes away, but it felt like forever. The air conditioning inside the taxi didn't help much. My mind was restless. I scrolled through my phone, idly checking messages, when I saw one from my best friend, Claire. "Guess what? I gave birth yesterday. If you're free, come see me." I smiled instinctively. Claire and I had been friends since college, inseparable through heartbreaks, job changes, and even pregnancy. Ours were just a month apart. She had been complaining about back pain for weeks, and I'd teased her that my baby might come before hers. I couldn't wait to see her, to hold her little bundle of joy. After my appointment, I decided to surprise her. It would be a short walk from the OB ward to the maternity wing. My heart warmed at the thought of seeing her face light up. But the moment I turned the corner into the maternity hallway, my entire body froze. There, sitting on a bench outside one of the rooms, was Daniel. My Daniel, the man who was supposed to be hundreds of miles away on a business trip. And in his arms was a newborn. Not just any newborn. I could tell by the pink knitted blanket and the tiny silver bracelet that it was Claire's baby. I had helped her pick out that bracelet during one of our shopping trips. Daniel was cradling the baby gently, his gaze soft and tender, in a way I had only seen when he imagined holding our own child. His fingers traced the baby's cheek, and he whispered something I couldn't hear. My heart stopped. I couldn't move, couldn't think. The sounds of the hospital, the beeping machines, the footsteps of nurses, the murmur of visitors, all faded into a muffled hum. My pulse pounded in my ears. Why was he here? Why was he holding Claire's baby like it was his own? I stepped back into the shadow of a vending machine, my hand instinctively covering my belly. Every possible explanation raced through my mind, but none made sense. Daniel had lied about his trip. That much was obvious. But the reason? I didn't want to imagine. Then the door to the maternity room opened. Claire stepped out, wearing a hospital gown and a tired but glowing smile. Her eyes landed on Daniel first, and then they flickered to me. In that instant, her expression shifted, shock, then something like fear. Daniel followed her gaze and saw me. His face drained of color. For a moment, the three of us just stared at each other, suspended in a silence so thick it felt like the air had turned solid. I wanted to scream, to demand answers right there, but my voice was trapped somewhere deep in my chest. My legs felt like stone, yet somehow I managed to turn away. I walked as fast as I could toward the elevator, my vision blurring. I didn't wait for them to follow. I didn't want to hear excuses. All I knew was that the man I loved and the friend I trusted more than anyone had just shared a moment so intimate it sliced me open. The elevator doors closed, and as I descended, I pressed my back to the wall, clutching my belly. My baby kicked as if sensing my distress. I whispered, "It's okay, sweetie. Mommy's here." But even I didn't believe my own words. When I reached the ground floor, I stumbled outside into the blinding sunlight. My phone buzzed in my bag. I pulled it out with trembling hands. It was a text from Daniel. "I'm sorry. I can't hide it anymore." I didn't read the rest. My vision swam, my heart pounded in my throat. I didn't know if I should go home, confront them, or just run until I couldn't feel anything anymore. But deep down I knew this was only the beginning. What was Daniel hiding, and why was Claire part of it? The sunlight outside the hospital felt harsh, almost cruel. I sat on a bench near the entrance, my phone still in my hand, Daniel's message glowing on the screen. "I'm sorry. I can't hide it anymore." My thumb hovered over the message, torn between wanting to know everything and wishing I could erase the last 15 minutes from existence. My heart raced. My baby kicked again, harder this time, as if urging me to do something. I took a deep breath and tapped to read the rest. But it's not what you think. Please, let me explain before you jump to conclusions. I almost laughed out loud. Not what I think. I had just seen my husband, who was supposed to be miles away, cradling my best friend's newborn like it was his own child. What else could I possibly think? I shoved the phone back into my purse. If he wanted to explain, he could do it in person. But the thought of seeing him right now made my stomach twist. My mind spiraled back to last year, to the night Daniel and I had attended Claire's birthday party. I remembered how they'd laughed together, shared inside jokes I didn't understand. At the time, I brushed it off. Claire was my best friend, and Daniel was my husband. I trusted them both completely, maybe too completely. A voice interrupted my thoughts. Sophie? I looked up and saw Emily, one of the nurses I'd met during my earlier appointments. She was in her scrubs, holding a cup of coffee, her brow furrowed in concern. You okay? You look pale, she said. I'm fine, I lied. She hesitated, glancing toward the maternity wing. I just saw you walking past, and then I saw Daniel. I didn't realize he knew Claire. Her words were casual, but the undertone wasn't. My chest tightened. They've known each other for a while, I said carefully. Emily shifted uncomfortably. Look, I don't want to get involved, but you should be careful. People talk around here, and not all of it is kind. Her vague warning sank into my bones like ice. Before I could ask more, her phone rang and she excused herself, leaving me with more questions than answers. I decided to head home. My mother-in-law, Margaret, was probably expecting me for lunch. She'd been unusually attentive these past few weeks, calling almost every day to check on me. When I walked through the front door, Margaret was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. She looked up and smiled. Sophie, you're back early. How was the appointment? Fine, I said, avoiding her eyes. She studied me for a moment. You're sure? You look upset. I hesitated. Margaret and I had always had a polite but distant relationship. She was fiercely protective of Daniel, and I wasn't sure how much I could confide in her without it turning into a defense of her son. I'm just tired, I said finally. Margaret nodded, though I could tell she didn't believe me. Well, you should rest. I'll bring you some tea. I retreated to the guest room, my quiet refuge when the world felt too heavy. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Claire. I know you saw us. Please, Sophie, can we talk? It's not what you think. The same words Daniel had used. My throat tightened. Did they coordinate their stories? I ignored the message, tossing the phone onto the bed. But seconds later, it buzzed again. Another message from Claire. If you don't hear me out, you'll never know the whole truth. And it might cost you more than just our friendship. My heart pounded. What did she mean by that? Was she threatening me? That evening, Daniel came home. I heard his car pull into the driveway, the crunch of gravel under his tires. My palms grew clammy. The door opened and he stepped inside. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed. He set his bag down and looked at me as if unsure whether I'd let him speak. Sophie, he began, I know what you saw. And I know how it looked. But you have to believe me. Believe you? My voice cracked. You lied about going on a business trip. You were at the hospital with Claire, holding her baby like my own? He finished quietly. The words hung between us like a blade. My knees felt weak. So it is yours? He shook his head quickly. No, Sophie, it's not mine. But what? I demanded. His jaw tightened. It's complicated, and it's not my secret to tell. That answer set my blood boiling. Not your secret? You're my husband. I'm carrying your child, and you think you can keep something like this from me? Daniel ran a hand through his hair. If I tell you everything now, I could ruin more than one life. Please, just give me until tomorrow. I'll make sure you hear the truth from the right person. I stared at him, my chest heaving. Tomorrow? After what I saw today, you expect me to sleep tonight? His gaze dropped to my belly. For the baby, Sophie, please. I hated that he was right. Stress wasn't good for the baby. But the pit in my stomach told me that whatever tomorrow brought, it wouldn't make me feel any better. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house sounded like the beginning of an answer I didn't want to hear. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a new message. It wasn't from Daniel or Claire. It was from an unknown number. If you want the truth, Meet me at the cafe on 5th Street. Come alone. Who was texting me, and what truth were they about to reveal? I stared at the message on my phone for a long time. If you want the truth, meet me at the cafe on 5th Street. Come alone. The number wasn't saved in my contacts, no profile picture, just a string of digits that meant nothing to me. My first thought was that it could be a scam. My second thought was that it could be a trap. But the third, and the one that made my stomach twist, was that this could be someone who knew exactly what happened between Daniel and Claire. The cafe on 5th Street wasn't far. I had been there a few times with Claire, back when we still met weekly for coffee and gossip. It was quiet, tucked into a side street, and the kind of place where no one would overhear a private conversation. I texted back, "Who are you?" No reply. My pulse quickened. I thought about ignoring it, but my curiosity burned. I needed to know. I told myself I'd just go, stay in public view, and leave if anything felt wrong. Margaret was in the living room watching her morning show when I grabbed my bag. "Going somewhere?" she asked. "Just for coffee," I said. She eyed me for a second, like she could sense the tension in my voice, but didn't press. The morning air was cool, a relief from the suffocating heat of yesterday. I walked into the cafe at exactly 10 o'clock. A few customers were scattered around, sipping lattes and typing on laptops. In the far corner, a woman waved me over. She was in her late 30s, with dark hair pulled into a neat bun and sharp eyes that seemed to size me up instantly. "You're Sophie," she said as I approached. "Yes, and you are?" "Anna," she replied. "Sit down, we don't have much time." Her tone was brisk, almost businesslike. I hesitated before sitting. "I don't know you," I said. "Why should I trust you?" Anna leaned forward. "Because I know why Daniel was at the hospital yesterday. And I know what Claire hasn't told you." Her words made my breath catch. "What do you mean?" She took a sip of coffee. "I work in administration at the hospital. I've seen Daniel there before. Not just yesterday, multiple times, always visiting Claire." My chest tightened. "So they have been seeing each other?" Anna nodded slowly. "Yes, but that's not all. A few months ago, I overheard something. Claire was talking to a doctor, and she mentioned Daniel's name. She said she needed him to sign something." "Sign what?" I demanded. Anna hesitated. "I think it was paperwork related to the baby. I don't know the exact details, but it wasn't about fatherhood. It was about guardianship." Guardianship, the word lodged in my brain. Why would Daniel need to be a guardian to Claire's baby? Before I could ask more, the cafe door opened. I turned my head and froze. Daniel had just walked in. His eyes locked on mine immediately, then shifted to Anna. His jaw tightened. "Sophie, we need to go, now," he said firmly. Anna didn't flinch. "She deserves to know the truth, Daniel." His voice was low but sharp. "Stay out of this, Anna. You've already done enough." My gaze darted between them. "You know her?" I asked Daniel. He sighed. "Yes, and whatever she's told you, it's not the whole story." Anna crossed her arms. "Maybe not, but it's a hell of a lot more than what you've told her." The tension between them was electric, and I felt like I was caught in the middle of a storm I didn't understand. Daniel reached for my arm. "Sophie, please, let's go home. I'll explain everything tonight." I yanked my arm back. "No, you explain now." His eyes flicked to Anna, then back to me. "If I tell you here, you'll hate me before you understand why I did it." I was shaking, my mind spinning. "Then give me one good reason why I shouldn't walk away right now." Daniel's jaw worked like he was holding back a dozen words. Finally he said, "Because the baby's life depends on it." I stared at him, stunned. What could my husband possibly mean by that, and what did it have to do with Claire's baby? The cafe was silent except for the faint hiss of the espresso machine. Daniel's words, "because the baby's life depends on it," hung in the air like smoke. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice trembling. Daniel glanced around, as if checking for eavesdroppers. "Not here. This isn't safe." Anna snorted. "Safe? You've been playing this dangerous game for months, Daniel. The least you can do is tell her the truth before it swallows her whole." I looked at Anna. "You seem to know everything, so why don't you tell me?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Because if I do, Daniel will call me a liar, and you won't know who to believe. But Sophie, you need to ask him about the agreement he signed." Daniel's eyes darkened. "Enough, Anna." I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the tile. I'm not going anywhere with either of you until someone explains what the hell is going on. Daniel's hand brushed mine. Please, Sophie, just trust me for a few more hours. Tonight at home, I'll lay it all out, but not here, not now. His urgency felt real, but so did my anger. I pulled my hand away and walked out of the cafe without another word. The fresh air hit my face like a slap. I walked aimlessly, my mind a storm. Guardianship, the baby's life, an agreement. Nothing fit together, yet the pieces felt dangerously close to locking into place. Back home, Margaret was still in the living room. She looked up as I came in. Where were you? You're pale. I just needed some air, I said, trying to sound casual. Her gaze lingered on me. Sophie, if there's something you need to tell me, you can. For a moment, I almost did. But something about Margaret's steady, watchful eyes made me hold back. I didn't know if she'd protect me or protect her son. I went upstairs and shut myself in our bedroom. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Claire. I heard you met Anna. Be careful with her. She doesn't know everything. I stared at the screen. Claire was warning me about Anna, while Anna was warning me about Claire and Daniel. Who was I supposed to believe? Hours passed in a haze. I paced the room, replaying yesterday in my head. Every smile, every word, every lie. My baby kicked again and again, a constant reminder that I couldn't let this stress break me. By the time Daniel came home that evening, I was exhausted from thinking. He set his keys on the counter and looked at me with something between guilt and determination. Let's talk, he said. We sat at the dining table. The clock ticked loudly in the background. He took a deep breath. Sophie, Claire's baby, she's not mine, but she's in danger. I blinked. Danger? From who? From her biological father, Daniel said. He's not a good man. Claire came to me months ago, terrified. She asked me to be the baby's legal guardian if something happened to her. I tried to process his words. Why you? Why not a family member? Because her family doesn't know the whole situation. And the father, he has money, power. If he knew about the baby, he'd take her. Claire trusts me. She knew I'd protect the baby at all costs. I swallowed. And you didn't tell me because? Because I didn't want you involved, he said. Not while you're pregnant. It's dangerous. The father has people watching her. Watching me. My skin prickled. Are you saying we're being watched? Daniel hesitated, then nodded. It's possible. I stood up, pacing. So yesterday? Yesterday, I was there to sign temporary custody papers, Daniel explained. Claire was recovering from the birth, and she didn't want the baby left unprotected for even a moment. The story sounded possible, but there was a nagging voice in my head telling me I wasn't hearing everything. Daniel, I said slowly, if you're telling me the truth, then fine, but if you're lying, I'm not, he interrupted. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. We both froze. It rang again, louder this time. Margaret peeked in from the hallway. It's for Sophie, she said. Some man in a suit. Daniel's expression shifted instantly from tense to alarmed. He got up and moved toward the door, but I was faster. I opened it. A tall man stood there, neatly dressed, with cold, assessing eyes. He smiled faintly. Mrs. Collins? Yes, I said cautiously. I think we should talk about your friend Claire and the child she just had. My stomach dropped. Who was this man, and how did he know about Claire's baby? The stranger's gaze was steady, almost unsettling. His tailored suit and polished shoes told me he wasn't just some random visitor. Daniel stepped in front of me, his voice low but firm. You have no business being here. The man's smile didn't waver. On the contrary, Daniel, I believe my business involves both of you. I looked from one to the other. You know him? I asked. Daniel's jaw tightened. We've met. The man's eyes shifted back to me. I'm Richard Bennett. I represent certain interests regarding Claire's child. My stomach turned cold. Are you the baby's father? Richard chuckled, but there was no warmth in it. No, Mrs. Collins, but I know who is, and I also know your husband has inserted himself into a very delicate situation. Daniel took a step forward. If you're here to threaten us, you should leave now. Richard ignored him and handed me a crisp white envelope. Inside is my card. I suggest you call me when you're ready to hear the truth, before it's too late for you, your child, and Claire's. I hesitated, but Daniel snatched the envelope from my hands and tossed it back at Richard. Get off my property. Richard's expression didn't change. He simply turned and walked down the driveway, his black sedan purring to life before disappearing into the street. The moment the car was gone, I rounded on Daniel. What the hell was that? Nothing you need to worry about, he said quickly. I laughed bitterly. You've been saying that a lot lately. Margaret appeared in the doorway, eyes sharp. Daniel, what's going on? Nothing, he repeated, too fast. I could feel the tension tightening around all of us. Without another word, I went upstairs, my mind buzzing. I waited until I was alone before fishing the envelope out of the hallway trash. Daniel had thrown it carelessly, and curiosity burned too hot to resist. Inside was a sleek business card. Richard Bennett, legal consultant. On the back, in neat handwriting, was a time and place. Meet me tomorrow, 11 a.m., no one else. That night, I barely touched dinner. Daniel kept glancing at me, but neither of us spoke much. Margaret tried to fill the silence with talk about the baby's room, but the words barely registered. Later, lying in bed, I thought about Anna's warning, Claire's messages, Daniel's story, and now this Richard Bennett. 4 people, 4 versions of the truth, and I was stuck in the middle, trying to decide who to believe. The next morning, I woke early. Daniel was still asleep. I slipped out of bed, dressed quietly, and left without telling him where I was going. The address on Richard's card led me to a private office suite in the nicer part of town. The receptionist barely looked up before buzzing me in. Richard was waiting in a small glass-walled office. He gestured to a chair. Mrs. Collins, I wasn't sure you'd come. I'm not sure why I'm here, I admitted. He leaned forward. I'll get straight to the point. The man who fathered Claire's child is dangerous. Not just the kind of dangerous Daniel told you about. Truly dangerous. He's tied to organized crime, laundering money, even violent acts. I gripped the edge of my chair. Why are you telling me this? Because you're already involved, he said simply. Daniel signed guardianship papers. That puts you in the crosshairs. If something happens to Claire, the baby comes to you, and the father will stop at nothing to get her back. My pulse pounded. So what do you want from me? Richard studied me for a long moment. I want you to convince Daniel to step away. Cancel the guardianship. Let me handle it. I frowned. Why do you care? His lips curved into a humorless smile. Let's just say I have an interest in keeping this particular man away from children, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen. I didn't trust him, not fully, but there was a conviction in his tone that made me think he wasn't lying. I need to think, I said. Richard nodded. Do it quickly. Time is running out. I left the office with my head spinning. Outside, the city felt louder, harsher. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Daniel and a text. Where are you? We need to talk. Now. By the time I got home, Daniel was pacing in the living room. Where were you? He demanded. I went for a walk, I said evenly. Don't lie to me, Sophie. I set my bag down. Funny, coming from you. His jaw tightened. You met with him, didn't you? Richard Bennett? I didn't answer. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. You can't trust him. He has his own agenda. And you don't? I shot back. We stood there, locked in a silent standoff, the air between us heavy with all the words we weren't saying. Then a sharp knock at the door shattered the moment. Margaret answered, and a nurse in hospital scrubs stepped inside, glancing nervously around. I'm looking for Sophie Collins. It's about your friend Claire. She's missing. My knees buckled. Claire was gone, and I had no idea if she'd taken her baby with her. The nurse's words seemed to echo in my head long after she'd spoken them. She's missing. I gripped the edge of the couch to steady myself. What do you mean missing? I asked. The nurse shifted uncomfortably. Claire was discharged this morning. She was supposed to be picked up by a family member, but when we checked, no one had signed her out officially. Her room was empty, her phone's off, and she didn't leave a forwarding address. Daniel stepped forward. And the baby? The nurse hesitated, then shook her head. Gone with her. My stomach dropped. When was the last time anyone saw her? I pressed. About 2 hours ago. We've alerted hospital security, but... The nurse's voice trailed off, and I could hear the unspoken truth. If Claire didn't want to be found, it wouldn't be easy. Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. I need to take this, he muttered, stepping into the hallway. Margaret motioned for the nurse to sit, offering her water, but my mind was spinning too fast to focus on politeness. What happens now? I asked. The nurse sighed. If you hear from her, please contact the hospital. And be careful. Claire mentioned your name more than once. I don't know why, but she seemed worried for you." Her words chilled me. When she left, Daniel returned, his face pale. "We need to talk." I folded my arms. "About what?" "That call. It was from a friend who works in private security. He's heard rumors that the father of Claire's baby has people looking for her, and if they can't find her, they might come looking for anyone connected to her." I froze. "You mean me?" "And the baby you're carrying," Daniel said grimly. The thought of strangers, dangerous strangers, knowing about my unborn child made my skin crawl. "What do we do?" I whispered. "We lay low for a while. I'll make some calls, see if I can find her before they do," Daniel said. Part of me wanted to trust him, to let him handle it. But another part remembered Richard's warning. Daniel has his own agenda. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house made me think someone was outside. I got up, padded to the kitchen for water, and saw movement through the window, a shadow near the driveway. I froze, heart pounding. The shadow moved again, then slipped out of sight. The next morning I decided I couldn't just sit around waiting for answers. I called Anna. "She's missing," I told her. "I know," Anna replied quickly. "I heard from someone at the hospital. Listen, Sophie, you can't trust anyone in this. Not Daniel, not Richard. Claire might have done something drastic, but she's not stupid. If she's gone, it's for a reason." "Then help me find her," I said. Anna hesitated. "I might know where she'd go if she needed to disappear, but it's risky." "I'll take risky over sitting here in the dark," I said firmly. We met at a small diner outside town. Anna slid into the booth with a folder in her hand. "This is a list of properties Claire's grandmother left her," Anna explained. "Most are sold, but there's one cottage still in her name, remote by the lake." I looked at the address. "How far?" "An hour, maybe less," Anna said. "But Sophie, if she's hiding from someone dangerous, going there could put you in the same danger." "I don't care," I said. "I just need to see her, to understand." Anna exhaled, clearly torn, but handed me the directions. I didn't tell Daniel where I was going. I just left, praying I wasn't making a huge mistake. The road to the cottage was winding and quiet, surrounded by tall trees that cast long shadows. My heart thumped harder the closer I got. Finally, I saw it. A small, weathered house with peeling paint and a sagging porch. A faint light glowed from inside. I parked a little way down the road and approached on foot. My hand shook as I knocked on the door. There was a long pause. Then slowly, the door opened. Claire stood there, hair messy, eyes wary. She looked thinner, paler, but she was holding the baby. "Sophie," she breathed. "You shouldn't be here." I stepped inside before she could stop me. "You disappeared. Everyone's looking for you. What's going on, Claire?" Her lips trembled. "If I tell you, you'll be in more danger than you already are." "I'm already in danger," I said. "And I'm pregnant, Claire. If there's something I need to know to protect my baby, you have to tell me." She closed her eyes, then whispered, "The man who's looking for me, he's not just the baby's father. He's—" A loud knock rattled the door, followed by a deep voice calling her name. The pounding on the door was sharp and urgent, each thud vibrating through the fragile walls of the cottage. Claire's knuckles whitened around the baby as she looked toward the sound. "Don't open it," I whispered. Her eyes darted to the window. "It's too late. They know I'm here." The deep voice called again. "Claire, it's Richard. Open the door, we need to talk." I froze. "Richard? You know him?" Claire hesitated, then nodded. "He's not who he told you he was." The knocking stopped. A few seconds later, there was the sound of heavy boots stepping onto the porch. "Claire, I'm here to help. You're not safe here. Neither is the baby." She looked at me, fear and conflict battling in her expression. If it's really him, he could be telling the truth. Or— She trailed off, hugging the baby closer. The door creaked under another knock, slower this time, more deliberate. I stepped closer to Claire. "Do you want me to answer it?" "No," she said quickly. "If he's here, there's only one reason. Someone else already knows where I am." The air inside the cottage felt thick, like we were suffocating. Claire backed away from the door and slipped into a small hallway. "Come on," she whispered. We moved quickly through the cramped space, entering a back room that smelled faintly of cedar. Claire shoved open a narrow closet door, revealing a trapdoor hidden beneath old blankets. I blinked. "What is this?" "An escape hatch," she said. "My grandmother had it built in during the war. Leads to the woods out back." The pounding at the front door grew louder again. Richard's voice was more urgent now. Claire, they're coming. You need to leave. I can get you out safely. Claire hesitated, then shook her head. If he's here, the others aren't far behind. We crouched and slipped through the trapdoor, lowering ourselves into the cool, damp tunnel. The wooden planks creaked under our weight as we moved, the faint light from above vanishing when Claire pulled the hatch shut. The baby whimpered softly. Claire murmured something soothing, her voice trembling. After several minutes of crawling, the tunnel sloped upward, and we emerged into thick underbrush behind the cottage. The lake glimmered in the distance. We can't stay near the house, Claire said. They'll search it first, but they'll sweep the area. I tried to keep my breathing steady, but my heart was pounding. Claire, you need to tell me everything. Who is this man? Who's after you? She glanced around before answering. The father, his name is Victor Hale. He runs one of the most powerful criminal networks in the city. I didn't know who he was when I met him. By the time I found out, it was too late. My chest tightened. Too late how? I was pregnant. And he made it clear that if I tried to leave, he'd take the baby. No court, no police, he'd just make it happen. A shiver ran through me. I went to Daniel for help because I trusted him, she continued. He offered to be the baby's legal guardian if anything happened to me. It was the only way to put a barrier between Victor and my child. I stopped in my tracks. So Daniel was telling the truth? Claire hesitated. About that part, yes, but there's more he hasn't told you. Richard works for Victor. If he's here, it's because Victor is getting impatient. Branches snapped somewhere behind us. Claire stiffened. They're close. We have to move. We hurried through the trees, our shoes crunching over dead leaves. The baby stirred again, and Claire tightened her hold. After what felt like forever, we reached a small boathouse at the edge of the lake. Inside, the smell of old wood and gasoline filled my nose. A single rowboat was tied to the dock. Claire lowered her voice. If we take the boat across, we can reach the highway in under an hour on foot. I helped her untie it, my hands shaking. We pushed off, the boat rocking gently as we climbed in. Halfway across the lake, the sound of an engine made us both look up. A speedboat was cutting across the water from the far side, its bows slicing through the waves like a knife. Claire's face went pale. It's them. I gripped the sides of the rowboat. Row faster! She did, muscles straining, but the speedboat closed in quickly. Suddenly a voice boomed from across the water. Claire, stop the boat, we just want to talk. Claire didn't answer. The baby began to cry, the sound thin and desperate against the roar of the approaching engine. The speedboat slowed just enough for a man to stand at the bow, a megaphone in hand. Even from a distance, I could see the sharp lines of his face and the way he scanned the lake with cold precision. Claire's hands faltered on the oars. That's him. That's Victor. The speedboat veered sharply toward us, and I realized we weren't going to make it to shore in time. The speedboat tore across the water, its engine growling like some predator closing in on its prey. Every second, it seemed to double in size as it approached. Claire's breath came fast and shallow, her knuckles white around the oars. Keep going, I urged, though my own voice trembled. Claire shook her head. We won't outrun him. The baby's cries grew louder, each wail shredding what little calm we had left. Victor stood at the bow, legs braced, eyes locked on us with unnerving precision. His voice carried over the water. Claire, you're only making this worse. Stop now and we can talk like civilized people. Claire ignored him, pushing the oars harder. My heart pounded in my chest, every muscle in my body tense. The speedboat cut across our path, sending a spray of water into our faces. The shock made Claire falter for just a second, long enough for Victor to step closer to the edge of his boat. Give me the child, he called. You know she belongs with me. She's not your property, Claire shouted back, her voice hoarse. Victor's gaze shifted to me for the first time. And who's this? Your new partner in crime. I felt a chill run through me. I'm her friend, that's all. Then be a good friend and get out of the way, he said, his tone deceptively calm. The speedboat eased closer until I could see the faint smirk on his lips. Then, suddenly, he reached into his jacket. Claire's eyes widened. Get down. We both ducked instinctively. Instead of a gun, Victor pulled out a flare gun and fired it into the air. The bright red streak arced above us before exploding into a burst of crimson smoke. My stomach knotted. What does that mean? It means he's calling for backup, Claire said grimly. I glanced over my shoulder. Sure enough, another boat appeared on the horizon, smaller but just as fast. Claire's strokes became frantic. The shore was still a good distance away, but we had no choice. Every pull of the oars felt like a lifetime. The second boat closed in, and I could make out 2 men aboard. One of them held what looked like a long pole, but as they got closer, I realized it was a grappling hook. They're going to pull us in, I said. Not if I can help it, Claire muttered, shifting her weight to throw them off balance. The boats converged on us, one from the front, the other from the side. The water churned violently, rocking our little rowboat until I thought we'd capsize. Victor's boat moved in for the final approach. This is your last chance, Claire, he shouted. Then from the opposite shore, the roar of another engine broke through the chaos. I turned to see a third boat, smaller than Victor's but moving at full throttle, cutting across the lake toward us. Claire's eyes narrowed. That's not his. The new boat pulled alongside us, and I saw a familiar figure at the helm, Daniel. Get in, he yelled. Claire hesitated, her eyes flicking between him and Victor. Now, Claire, Daniel barked. With no time to argue, we scrambled toward Daniel's boat. I climbed in first, then helped Claire lift the baby over. The moment we were aboard, Daniel gunned the engine, sending us speeding away. Behind us, Victor shouted something I couldn't hear over the roar of the motor. His boat gave chase, the other 2 following close behind. Daniel zigzagged across the water, trying to throw them off, but they were faster. The gap closed with every second. Where are we going? I shouted over the wind. There's a dock on the south side, Daniel called back. From there, we can get to a safe house. I didn't know if I believed him, but right now, I had no other choice. The dock came into view, a long stretch of weathered wood leading into a dense forest. Daniel pulled alongside it, and we jumped out, our legs shaky from the ride. Hurry, he urged, grabbing a duffel bag from under the seat before leading us into the trees. We pushed through thick undergrowth, the sounds of the lake fading behind us. My lungs burned, my back ached, but adrenaline kept me moving. Finally, we reached a small cabin tucked into the hillside. Daniel unlocked the door and ushered us inside. It was sparse but clean, 2 rooms, a small kitchen, and a back door that opened to a hidden trail. Daniel locked every window and door before turning to us. We can't stay long. They'll search the shoreline. Claire sank into a chair, rocking the baby. Why are you here? She asked him. Because I knew Victor would go after you, Daniel replied. And I couldn't let Sophie get caught in the middle. He looked at me then, his eyes dark with something I couldn't read. There's more you need to know, Sophie. About me, about why I agreed to be the baby's guardian. Before he could continue, the sound of tires crunching over gravel echoed outside, and headlights swept across the cabin walls. The beam of headlights swept across the cabin walls like a searchlight, then cut out. For a moment, the forest outside went completely silent. Claire clutched the baby tighter, her breathing quick and shallow. Daniel motioned for both of us to stay quiet. He reached into the duffel bag and pulled out a flashlight and something small, metallic, keys maybe, or a knife. I whispered, "Who is it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he moved to the side window, angling himself so he could peek through the curtain without being seen. His shoulders tensed. "It's not Victor," he murmured, "but I don't know who it is yet." The crunch of footsteps on gravel reached us. Whoever it was, they were approaching slowly, deliberately. Then came the creak of the front porch under someone's weight. 3 knocks, steady, measured. Daniel raised a finger to his lips, then crept toward the door. "Who's there?" he called. A woman's voice answered, low but firm. "Anna, let me in. It's urgent." Relief flooded through me. At least it wasn't one of Victor's men, but Daniel's expression stayed guarded. He opened the door just enough to let her in, locking it again immediately afterward. Anna looked winded, her hair damp from sweat or rain. "You need to move, now," she said without preamble. "Victor's men are sweeping the south shoreline. They'll be here in less than 20 minutes. Claire's eyes widened. "How do you know?" "I followed them," Anna said. "I've been tracking their movements since I left the hospital this morning. They're not just after the baby anymore, they're after all of you." Daniel frowned. "What changed?" Anna's gaze flicked to me. "You. They think Sophie knows something, and if they can't get it from you willingly..." She let the sentence hang. A chill ran down my spine. I don't know anything, I said. That doesn't matter, Anna replied. They believe you do. Daniel began packing quickly, shoving clothes, water bottles, and a folded map into the duffel. We'll head north, through the back trail. It's longer, but it'll take us away from the lake. Anna nodded. I'll drive you as far as I can. After that, you're on your own. We moved fast, the baby stirring but not fully waking. The night was cold and damp, the smell of pine heavy in the air. The headlights from Anna's SUV lit the trail just enough for us to see the uneven ground. Once we reached the vehicle, Daniel loaded the duffel into the back while Claire and I climbed in. Anna drove without speaking, her eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. After about 15 minutes, she turned onto a narrow service road. This will bypass the main routes, she explained. They won't expect you to take it. But barely 5 minutes later, twin beams of headlights appeared behind us, growing brighter. Anna's jaw tightened. They found us. The vehicle behind us accelerated, closing the distance quickly. Daniel braced himself, ready for, what? A fight? I didn't know. Hold on, Anna said, flooring the accelerator. The SUV jolted forward, engine straining. The road narrowed, trees whipping past in a blur. The other vehicles swerved, trying to pull alongside us. I caught a glimpse of a dark figure in the passenger seat, leaning out slightly, something glinting in his hand. A sharp crack split the air. The side mirror exploded, glass spraying the side of the SUV. They're shooting at us, Claire cried. Anna swerved hard, forcing the other car toward the ditch. For a moment, it looked like they'd lose control, but the driver recovered, pulling back in behind us. We can't outrun them, Daniel said. We have to lose them another way. Anna's eyes narrowed. There's an old logging road ahead. If we take it, we might be able to get them stuck. She yanked the wheel sharply to the right. The SUV bounced violently over uneven ground, branches scraping the windows. The headlights behind us swung wildly as the pursuing car tried to follow. The road curved sharply around a fallen tree, forcing Anna to slow. The other car took the turn too fast, skidding sideways before crashing into the tree with a sickening crunch. Anna didn't slow down. She pushed the SUV harder until we reached a clearing surrounded by dense forest. This is as far as I can take you, she said, cutting the engine. From here, you'll have to go on foot. There's an old ranger station about 2 miles north. It's abandoned, but it'll give you shelter until morning. We grabbed what we could carry. Daniel took the lead, guiding us through the trees with a small flashlight. The forest was eerily quiet, every snap of a twig underfoot sounding far too loud. After what felt like hours, we saw the faint outline of a structure in the distance. Relief surged through me, until Daniel stopped abruptly. I followed his gaze. The door to the ranger station was already open, swinging slightly in the wind, and inside, silhouetted by the dim moonlight, stood a man holding a gun. The man in the ranger station didn't move, but the gun in his hand was steady, pointed directly at us. Moonlight spilled through the cracked windows, illuminating the sharp lines of his face. Inside, he said. Daniel stepped in front of me and Claire. Who are you? The man's eyes flicked to Claire. I'm here for the child. My stomach dropped. Victor sent you. He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Claire's grip on the baby tightened. You'll have to kill me first. The man's expression didn't change. That can be arranged, but I'd rather not. Hand her over and we all walk away. Daniel raised his hand slowly. Let's talk about this. Nothing to talk about, the man replied. My pulse thundered in my ears. I couldn't just stand there. If he got the baby, it was over. For Claire, for her child, maybe even for me. Without thinking, I stepped to the side, drawing his attention for just a second. Why are you doing this? Do you even know what Victor plans to do with her? His eyes narrowed. Not my business. I get paid to deliver, not to ask questions. But what if I could pay you more? I asked. Daniel shot me a sharp look, but I ignored him. The man tilted his head. You're bluffing. I'm not, I said firmly. I have access to money, enough to make you forget you ever saw us. A long pause. The tension in the air was suffocating. Then, footsteps crunched outside. The man's eyes darted toward the sound, his gun shifting slightly. The door burst open, and Richard stepped in. Drop it, Richard barked, his own gun drawn. For a split second, no one moved. Then, slowly, the man lowered his weapon. Richard kicked it away and kept his aim steady. Victor's men are closing in. We have maybe 10 minutes before this place is surrounded. If you want to live, you'll come with me now. Daniel glared. Why should we trust you? Because, Richard said. I'm not working for Victor anymore. He's gone too far, and I don't want to see that child end up in his hands. Claire's eyes searched his face for any sign of a lie. Why the sudden change of heart? Richard didn't flinch. Let's just say I know what it's like to have something taken from you. Now move. We didn't have time to argue. We followed Richard out the back, moving fast through the trees. The night air was biting cold, my breath coming in quick bursts. After several minutes, we reached a dirt road where an old pickup truck was parked. Richard gestured for us to climb in. The drive was tense and silent. My mind raced with questions. About Richard, about Victor, about how this nightmare would end. Finally, we pulled into the driveway of a small farmhouse. The lights inside were dim, but the place felt safe. This belongs to a friend of mine, Richard said. Victor doesn't know about it. You can stay here until I figure out a way to get him off your backs for good. Claire sank into a chair, rocking the baby. Her shoulders sagged with exhaustion. Daniel turned to Richard. What's your plan? Victor's empire is built on fear and loyalty, Richard said. If we can expose him, show his own people that he's a liability, they'll turn on him. And how do we do that? I asked. Richard's gaze met mine. With proof, which Claire has. Claire's eyes widened. The documents, he nodded. The ones you hid before you ran. They tie Victor to multiple crimes, enough to put him away for life. Daniel exhaled sharply. Then we get them, and we end this. Over the next 2 days, with Richard's help, Claire retrieved the hidden documents from a storage unit under a false name. Within a week, they were in the hands of federal investigators. The news about Victor's arrest hit the media like a storm, but for me, it didn't feel real. Not until I saw him with my own eyes. 2 days later, I was called to the police station to confirm his identity for court. Through the glass of the interrogation room, Victor sat handcuffed, his suit rumpled, but his eyes still cold. He looked up, met my gaze, and smiled, a sharp, dangerous smile that promised this wasn't over. I stepped closer to the glass and whispered, "You lost." His smile faltered. That was enough for me. The news broke soon after. Victor Hale arrested on multiple charges. His network began to crumble, his men scattering. For the first time in months, Claire could breathe. A month later, I stood in the courthouse as Claire signed the final papers, ensuring her sole custody of her daughter. Daniel and I watched from the back, the weight of everything we'd been through heavy in the air. Outside, Claire hugged me tightly. "I owe you my life," she said. I smiled faintly. "No, you owe your daughter a future. You gave her that." On the walk home, Daniel finally spoke. "Sophie, I should have told you everything from the start. I thought I was protecting you, but I hurt you instead. I'll spend as long as it takes to earn back your trust." I met his eyes steadily. "We'll see. Trust is earned, Daniel, not given." That night, as I held my hand over my belly, feeling my baby's gentle kicks, I whispered, "You'll grow up knowing that your mother never backed down, that when it mattered most, I fought. We may bend, but we do not break. And when we rise stronger." And I realized something. This wasn't just Claire's story. It was mine too, because women are not weak. And when we decide to protect what's ours, nothing and no one can stand in our way.